All right, guys, back here on Southeastern 14 with Max Barr. We continue our stroll through transfer land in SEC basketball. And Ole Miss, you're up because we're finally getting to you. Ole Miss has quite a few transfers, but again, we were knocking out dozens of other transfers. And so we are getting to the Rebels for Max Barr's brand here. We know his thoughts on the Ole Miss Rebels. But before we tell you about Sean Pedulla and Dre Davis, let's tell you about our friends at Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoff stats as well. You can find all the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head over to their website today or use the mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, Max, the Rebels, your squad, bringing in two guys here that we'll join several other guys that are going to be, we'll talk about at Southeastern 14. But we start with a Virginia Tech transfer, which, if you're like, wait a minute, I've heard that before. Yeah, because Virginia Tech's had quite a few transfers, and two of them going to Vanderbilt, who we've already talked about as well. So you can check that out in another video if you want to check out all the exits for Virginia Tech. But Sean Pedulla, this is the image of someone that does not lack confidence. This man is coming in on a mission based on this right here. The king sitting on the throne. And, hey, he's got reason to be confident because he had quite a season last year for the Hokies. Yeah. Really the past couple seasons he's been excellent. 16.4 points per game last year. Averaged 4.6 assists, 4.3 rebounds. Played 32.2 minutes per game. The year before, averaged 15 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. Played 36 minutes a game. So you got a very experienced guy the past 2 seasons playing in the ACC. And now he joins Ole Miss, which I think is very interesting when you look at kind of the makeup of this guard group. And we'll talk about Dre Davis here in a minute. But Sean Pedulla, Max, the king, has arrived in Oxford.
Yeah. Before we jump into the numbers, we have to lay down some context as to what situation Pedulla was in at Virginia Tech. This past year especially, he was the guy for pretty much everything that they wanted to do. You had Hunter Couture at the 2. He was a pure catch and shoot guy. So was Tyler Nickel. You have Sean Pedulla being forced to just create everything, which in turn leads to a little bit more mistakes also on the stat sheet. So here's a quick, I was diving into Pedulla and I found a Virginia Tech account on Twitter. Perfect description. An Ole Miss fan was asking what they're getting. Here's the quote from a Virginia Tech account. When he puts his mind to it, he was unstoppable. This past year, though, there were times where he would make such incredible plays. Then there were also times when you wanted to pull him inside and say, less is more. There's 4 other players on the floor. So you can kind of get that picture of he was the main guy for everything, sometimes overdid it, sometimes, this and that. So that's what we're dealing with. All ACC third team, finished third in the ACC in assists with 148. But here's the stat I found that I'm most excited about. Okay, so here is a list, Blake, of all the players in the ACC with an assist rate above 25%, so dishes out, creates for others, and 50 made threes, can also knock down a shot. So that's all it is, just assist rate higher than 25%, and you made 50 threes. Sean Pedulla. There's the list in the ACC. There's the list. He's the only guy to do it. And for some comparison, some guys you might know, some SEC guys that did it last year, only 3 did it. Okay, it was Zakai Ziegler, Wade Taylor, and Rob Dillingham. Now that's pretty good company to be in. Come on. I'm excited for Pedulla, Blake.
Yep. He, again, like you said, I think you have to put it within the context of what we saw from Virginia Tech last year and understanding kind of his role because, the turnover numbers were up and that kind of thing. But remember, he was put in a lot of those situations. We talked about guys before that, you have to put it within the context of he's probably the guy with the ball in his hands when the shot clock's going down and he's having to force stuff at times. And, it's just sometimes you can't just go by what you see on that necessarily. You have to go a little bit deeper into, why he was in that position. And so, but I think he is, like you said, to me, he feels like he's that Chris Beard point guard. Like he, he seems to check a lot of the boxes in terms of what Beard's probably looking for. from just kind of what he's going to bring to the table. And we'll see, again, percentage-wise and those kind of things, how it looks different for him, probably not having to have as much on his shoulders as, that was probably the case at Virginia Tech. So, yeah. So I think Sean Pedulla joining the mix. What else you got?
Just before we move on to Pedulla, just right as we're talking, it come up in my head. As you said it, Chris Beard's got his guard. Remember the last time a Sean Pedulla type of guard experienced transfer came to a Chris Beard team? I'm getting shades of Matt Mooney in my head right now. Did that team go to the national championship game? I think they did. Yes,
They weren't
did.
bad.
Yes, they did. No, halt the expectations back, but nonetheless, I think Chris Beard's got his lead guard that he might not have had last year.
All right, Dre Davis also joins the mix here. He comes over from Seton Hall, and big time scoring guy, averaged 15 points a game last year, 6 rebounds per game, shot it really well. I mean, shot 49%. And I think again, you look at someone that we said. I mean, Ole Miss was kind of a team that they need to get where they want to be defensively, but they also need to be a team that kind of packs a little bit more of a punch offensively. We saw that kind of take a dip last year. Remember the great start, but then, you're kind of looking up and saying, man, they need a little more offensive consistency. And so really both these guys we talked about, they've proven it elsewhere that they can, put up points. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how Davis kind of factors into the mix as an older guy on this roster, started his career at Louisville, played a couple seasons there, played a couple seasons at Seton Hall, and was really, kind of a workhorse last year when you think about it. 33 minutes per game, started 36 as 37, and like I said, averaged 15 points per game and shot it pretty well.
Yeah, we're keeping the trend continuing here with Ole Miss. You had Pedulla senior, and now we get a graduate in Dre Davis. Ole Miss was one of the oldest teams last year, and they're staying old. Dre Davis was actually recruited very highly in the portal. He visited Musselman and USC the weekend before he visited Ole Miss, but was also contacted by a bunch of SEC schools who all kind of carry the same foundation. Auburn, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Texas A&M. Kind of get the vibe of what kind of player Dre Davis, what team he would fit into. Diving into a little bit of the numbers, you said he's a quality shooter. Here's his 3-point progression throughout his career. So at freshman year, 12 of 48, 25%. Sophomore year, 11 of 53, 20%. 2023, 18 of 44, 41%, but only 18 threes. This past year, 35 of 100, 35%, almost double his previous career high. So had his best shooting year by far. And listen to some of these stats. He's a stat sheet stuffer, just fills it up. Here is a list. I'm liking these lists, Blake.
Me too.
Here's a list of Big East players last year, okay, with a defensive rebound rate of at least 10%, so cleans up the defensive glass, physical, can box out, a block rate of at least 4%, so very good defensively around the rim also, and made at least 33s. So just 3 criteria. You rebound, you block, and you make threes. In the Big East, only 2 guys did it. It was Dre Davis and Marquette's David Joplin. If you're familiar with Marquette, Joplin plays that stretch 4. There's only one player in the SEC that did it. And that was Grant Nelson. So kind of get a picture of how Dre Davis plays. I'm not saying he's Grant Nelson, but just kind of that ability to defensive rebound, protect the rim, but also stretch the floor a little bit on offense. Dre Davis can do that.
Yeah, I like the stat sheet stuffing nature of the way he plays, because you can go back and look at some of the game logs on, some of the games that they did play last year, and you're just like, wow, yep, he played 40 minutes, there's 45 minutes, there's 40 minutes, you just keep going down the line, right? And it's like the triple overtime game against Creighton, oh yeah, he played 46 minutes in that game. This guy just played a ton. And, again, he was relied upon to do a lot of things, and he delivered on that. You really, again, you can go down,
and the NIT?
Line NIT had a really good NIT run there for sure. So yeah, as always, I think it's just, you see how these guys get acclimated to the way that their new team does things. And I think it's, like you said, I'm most curious just to see, all right, Chris Beard had a plan here, bringing in these guys. How does he plan on using these guys? How does he put some of these guys into, what they want to do offensively. And, obviously some of these guys are going to help defensively such too. But, I'm curious to see how he uses a Dre Davis, just given all the things that he can do.
Yeah, and we were actually talking right before we came on how like Chris Beard usually plays those unusual lineups where maybe the 5-man's more of a traditional 4, and so he can switch everything defensively and mix things up on you. Normally, I have a pretty good idea of where a guy's going to slot in. Like Pedulla, I think he's that lead guard role. He's going to be the guy taking the ball up the court. Dre Davis, kind of a utility man. I don't really know what Beard's going to do with him. I'm excited to see it.
Yep, we'll see how it plays out because, like we said, they're bringing in some new guys, and we'll see if that can get Ole Miss kind of moving forward back towards the NCAA tournament. Bracketology in May means nothing, but Joe Lunardi did have Ole Miss as a 7 seed in the May bracketology, so we only got 10 months to go, but they're sitting at a 7 right now.
Pencil
them in as a 7. All right. And it could be because of Sean Pedulla and Dre Davis. But we'll continue to have it covered here at Southeastern 14. We're doing videos on every single transfer. So Ole Miss, I know you got a couple more as well. We will get to them soon enough. And we're getting to every single transfer in SEC basketball. Check out all of our football, baseball stuff as well. And again, we will have it all covered here at Southeastern 14. We appreciate you guys watching as always. And we'll talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 14.